Hi there. So as you can probably tell from the very mediocre video and audio setup I have here, I'm not a YouTuber by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a guy that plays games and sometimes uploads videos about them. But I've never really been in front of the camera in this way, and certainly not really spoken with my voice in this format. So for me, this is a bit of an odd experience, but as a long-time Bioware Dragon Age fan, seeing what's happening with Dragon Age the Veilguard and seeing the people involved in the production of it and seeing just the content and the mission behind the game and the kind of message it wants to have, it's something that I have a lot of strong opinions about, and I felt like I absolutely had to share them online. So I guess if I start with a little bit of a background about me and my interaction with the games, I started playing Dragon Age Origins back in 2011, immediately followed by the sequel, and I absolutely loved the games, thought they were fantastic. For me, at the time, as a gay 19-year-old who was quite lonely, living in a foreign country, being able to just completely immerse myself in a fantasy game was really valuable to me, and I was able to completely immerse myself into the world, connect with the characters. It all felt really authentic, and it was a great story and a great game. It was very fun to play. So as somebody who's been waiting, a good 10 years for the next installment of Dragon Age, and seeing what it's become, I have just kind of reached just a moment of clarity, I would say, or the fact that I feel like I've been kind of in this ideological haze for a good number of years now, and I've only just kind of snapped out of it or realised what's happening. And again, this is all just my personal opinion, personal kind of analysis of things, but it's inevitably something I really need to share. Really feel like I want to tell other people how I feel. So the important thing I'd like to start off with is I've been very supportive, authentically supportive of trans people for a long time. I've written quite a lot of trans characters in games and comics, and I think there are lots of ways of including trans people in stories that are really interesting and really fit well with the world building. And this is absolutely not, me saying, "Oh, I hate trans people," or "We need to remove trans people from games." It's obviously completely not what I want, and I don't think that's fair. But what I am saying is there are certain aspects of trans belief, trans ideology, gender ideology. There's just things that I've had my eyes open to the point where I'm seeing that there are certain things that are being done that are just completely unacceptable to me, and offensive and appalling. And I'll focus on the main kind of two issues I have in Dragon Age the Veilguard. But the first one is a cutscene which I've probably watched about 24 times, and I'm just kind of more appalled by every time I see it. So you have the character Isabella, who's talking about another person, and again, this is just my opinion, but this is the conclusion I've come to. This person is a woman. They have a woman's body, they have a woman's face, they have a woman's voice, they look like a woman, and this is just for me, but I think humans from a very, very early age innately, subconsciously learn how to look at somebody and identify their sex, their gender, just purely on appearance and actions. And I think that's just something innately human, to look at somebody and know their sex and gender. So in this case, Isabella refers to this person as she in the story, because she's telling a story. And then, because that's not the pronoun this person demands that they're called, this character, Isabella, then has to go into a corner of the room and do this physical punishment slash public humiliation ritual, because she used the wrong pronouns to describe somebody, whereas just saying sorry is just not enough anymore, apparently. And for me, and this is absolutely where I draw the line, is this decision by the writers, and we've got people behind the scenes who are trans, who are plugging away at this message in this game, to say that we are at a point where women should be punished for just even accidentally disagreeing with the status quo, with no malice involved. It was just literally, a character or a person just using their brain in a conversation to decide somebody's gender, and normal people would say, okay, sorry, call you whatever you are happy with, but it's just not enough anymore. And that's where I draw the line in the sand and say this is enough, and I've just had enough of it. It's just, for me, Dragon Age is one of those franchises, one of those worlds which I consider to be like my house. It's somewhere I'm comfortable. It's somewhere I've been for a long time. So this is like, if I describe it as kind of like my arena, they've taken this really ham-fisted, terribly executed and offensive message, which, again, if I'd said this to myself a year ago, I would have really not believed it, but now I just see it for what it is. It's just gender ideology and propaganda and forced messaging, and you're not allowed to disagree. And as you can literally see in the game, that you have to be punished for disagreeing. And I just think that's not acceptable, and I can't tolerate just this delusional behaviour anymore. Like I said, if somebody wants to change their gender, that's great. Never going to tell somebody what to do with their body if they don't want to, or if they do want to do something, just please go ahead and do it. But when it gets to the point where you have to, by force and by threats, obligate the cooperation of other people to sustain your identity, it's just not acceptable anymore. It's not. We can't have this anymore. I mean, I'm coming at this from somebody who's been so supportive of trans people. I'm gay myself, obviously, and for me, I look at the early 2010s as this kind of signpost of what gay people achieved by working together and kind of standing up and wanting to be accepted as people. And at no point for me was my being gay, none of that required other people's cooperation in me being gay. I just am, and gay people just are gay. We don't need doctors, diagnoses, surgeries, medications. We don't need other people to treat us or call us a certain way. We don't need we just don't need other people's participation in a ritual to be gay. I think the ultimate really goal of just gay rights in the early 2010s was just, I'm going to go do this thing and be gay, leave me alone. And if you don't like it, I'm not putting a gun to your head saying, come to my gay wedding. It's just, I'm going to be this person and do this thing. I'm not forcing you to be it or do it or say it. You don't have to take part. And I think that's what I want for trans people in this context, is just, yes, be who you want to be, but you can't force people to take part. And this kind of comes to my second point about this character in particular. I believe if you have a woman's body and a woman's voice and a woman's face and a woman's mannerisms, or whatever it is, if somebody looks at you and thinks that you're a woman, it's completely inappropriate to respond to that with punishment of this person. And I mean, obviously, when it comes to what women should look like, I'm not the body police or the gender police. I think it's great to have women that look different. Big muscly women, it's great. If that's what you're into, that's really cool. You like different shaped people, that's totally cool as well. But again, it's just be that body shape or like that body shape without threats, without bullying, without this intimidating kind of aura that we're stuck in. Because even right now, I'm almost reticent to upload this or share this, because this is a opinion which isn't allowed anymore, and it's awful to be in a place where you can't even have a discussion. Again, with kind of like being gay, if people said, "Oh, I hate homosexuality because of my religion or my beliefs," say it's terrible, you just kind of laugh and go like, "Okay, I really don't need your participation." But with this, it's just non-stop forced compliance into something that people don't believe in or agree with, and it's really suppressive. So moving on to the second kind of issue I have with the gender ideology in the game, just the labels of trans and non-binary and the celebration of top surgery scars, kind of like double mastectomy scars, they just absolutely don't fit into the narrative of a high fantasy, Middle Ages inspired game. It's so ham-fisted. I mean, again, as somebody who's written trans characters in games and comics and fantasy stuff, there are so many ways you can do it that are really interesting and kind of like different perspectives. I mean, you're talking about a world with magic, a magical sex change or an illusion to change how you look. Those are all really interesting potential stories that Dragon Age could have included. I always think of an example a little bit different, but in Dragon Age 2 you have someone like Anders, and I don't remember the exact line, but Anders says somewhere near the start, "Oh, does it shock you that I've slept with men and women?" And that was great, because he didn't need to label himself and say, "I'm bisexual, I'm he, him. You need to call me how I demand, and if you don't..." That just didn't happen. It was just an authentic conversation, good writing, somebody you can actually engage with, because engagement inherently involves disagreements. It's not this monolith, this mono mind of we're all having the same opinion, and if you don't, you are the Nazi, the transphobe, you want trans people to die for disagreeing with us. That mentality just being totally injected into the world of Dragon Age, and it's been done so in a really terrible, offensive, ham-fisted, unprofessional way, to the point where, as I say, I feel like I've kind of woken up from a haze when it comes to gender in media, and I kind of just had to make this video to kind of just share how I feel, because I just don't want to see this in what I consider my refuge or my safe kind of home, and particularly as well, not just the game itself, but also the community. I've really enjoyed being in the Dragon Age community. Love the fan art, the fanfics, all the people, because I've described this as Dragon Age as a monument. If you imagine a big statue that people crowd around and enjoy, but Dragon Age is a monument which has been being built for a very long time by Bioware, and a lot of those foundations come from games like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Neverwinter Nights, all of those amazing fantasy games that I've loved from a very young age. And I feel at the moment that there are people within the structure that made the game who are trans and have strong beliefs about it, and they have, in my opinion, just come to the statue that is Dragon Age and defaced it. I think there's, if we imagine graffiti on the walls, there's paint daubed everywhere, there are scratches in the marble, there are little cuts in the stone, in order to completely just inject their own beliefs rather than build something new or something which could tell a good story. It's just a after school special lecture, and it's defaced. I think it's just defaced the monument that is Dragon Age. I don't know if it will make the monument fall. I do feel like this is a huge ringing bell for the gaming world in general, which is obviously very important to me as a gamer, and I don't really know what kind of direction things are going to go into next, for Dragon Age or for fantasy in general. But I do just feel very unhappy and very sad with what this has turned into. Something I've been looking forward to for 10 years has just been totally co-opted into a message that I can't accept anymore, and I just won't tolerate it anymore. I just don't want to be in that kind of community where you are not allowed to disagree. I don't want to be in a community where I have to play along with something I just don't believe in. So I think I'm really just going to not anymore. I'm probably just going to disengage from Dragon Age. Maybe just go back to the old games. To be honest, in general, I don't really have time to play games at the moment. Very busy at work. As you can imagine, as an average man in his 30s is. But I did want to put time into making this. And I think my hope really is just that at least one person out there watches this and feels at least a little bit of empathy for what I'm going through, or just somebody else that can kind of maybe share this opinion. Somebody who's really enjoyed Dragon Age but is just kind of stuck in this position where we either have to just completely bow down and agree with something we don't believe in, or leave, because we're not allowed to be part of this community and disagree. And my evidence for that is, in real time, I've been watching the comments on, I think it's just r/Dragon Age Veilguard, and seeing even posts which are mildly critical or gently disagreeing with any aspect of the game, regardless, even if it's outside of gender ideology, but just seeing those comments being deleted in real time because they don't fit the desired status quo is very chilling, I think. And it's proof that I think ultimately the problem with Dragon Age, the Veilguard, is that it's not art. It's a product, and it's a product that's being pushed urgently to make money, as opposed to a video game which is a piece of art that is sold for money and builds a community. It's just not. This isn't building for the future. This isn't building a monument. It's just defacing what's there. Anyway, I think I've kind of more or less said what I wanted to say. Like I said, I'm not a YouTuber, so apologies for the audio and video setup. It's not great, but I hope this made sense. Again, just my intention is not to be nasty to anyone or hurtful. It's just my opinion. I just really want to share it on this game. And yeah, thank you for listening.